Nobody noticed the old dragon anymore. He stood near the back wall of Orbital Transit Hub Gamma 7, his weight shifting painfully from one leg to the other. His scales had lost their shine decades ago. Where his left wing should have been, there was only a scarred stump. The crowd of travelers moved around him like water flowing past a forgotten stone. Danny Reeves noticed him immediately. The human mechanic had just finished a 3-week job repairing a mining vessel in the outer colonies. His clothes still carried grease stains. His bag hung heavy on his shoulder. All he wanted was to sit down and wait for his shuttle home. The station was packed. Every seat in the waiting area was taken. Hundreds of beings from dozens of species filled the space with noise and movement. Danny spotted one empty seat near the far wall and started walking toward it. Then he saw the dragon. The Dracari were a proud warrior race. They stood 8 feet tall with scales like armor and wings that could carry them through the void of space itself. During the Great Wars, they had been feared across the galaxy. But the wars ended 30 years ago, and fear had slowly turned into something worse. Indifference. This old dragon wore faded military insignia on what remained of his uniform. The markings of a sergeant. A veteran. Danny could see the pain in every small movement the dragon made. His leg was damaged. Standing was clearly agony for him, and nobody cared. Aliens of various species sat comfortably in their seats. Some looked at the old veteran and quickly looked away. Others pretended he did not exist at all. A few even whispered cruel jokes to their companions. Danny changed direction as he walked past the empty seat and stopped directly in front of the dragon. The old warrior looked down at him with tired yellow eyes. There was no hope in those eyes. Only the dull acceptance of someone who had stopped expecting kindness long ago. "Sergeant," Danny said, his voice clear and respectful. "Please take my seat." The station fell silent. Not completely silent, of course. Machines still hummed. Announcements still played. But the nearby crowd stopped their conversations. Heads turned. Eyes stared. A human was offering his seat to a Dracari. A human was showing respect to one of the feared dragon race. The old sergeant blinked slowly. "I do not need your pity, human." "It is not pity, sir," Danny replied. "My grandfather was a soldier. He taught me that those who serve deserve respect. You earned that seat more than I ever could." For a long moment, the dragon simply stared at him. Danny could see emotions moving behind those ancient eyes. Surprise, confusion, and something that might have been the beginning of tears. "What is your name, human?" the sergeant asked quietly. "Danny Reeves, sir." "I am Roger." The old dragon paused. "Thank you, Danny Reeves." Roger limped forward and slowly lowered himself into the seat Danny had found. A small sound of relief escaped his throat as the weight finally left his damaged leg. Danny stepped back and leaned against the wall nearby, setting his bag down at his feet. The whispers started immediately. "Stupid human," someone hissed in a language Danny understood. "Wasting kindness on a broken lizard. The Dracari killed thousands during the war," another voice muttered. "They deserve nothing." Danny ignored them all. He had heard worse. His grandfather had taught him that doing the right thing was rarely popular. The old man had come home from his own war to find that nobody wanted to hear his stories or honor his sacrifice. He had died feeling forgotten. Danny had promised himself he would never let another veteran feel that way if he could help it. "You should not have done that," Roger said quietly, his voice pitched low so only Danny could hear. "Your kind gains nothing from showing kindness to mine. You will only make enemies." Danny shrugged. "Then I will make enemies. Does not change what is right." Roger studied him for a long moment. Then, for the first time in what looked like many years, the old dragon smiled. It was a small smile, barely visible through his scarred features, but it was real. Across the crowded station, a young Dracari female stood frozen in place. She had been searching for someone for months, traveling from station to station, following rumors and old records. And now she had finally found him. But that was not what held her attention. She had watched the entire exchange. She had seen the human offer his seat. She had heard the respect in his voice. In her entire life, she had never seen any species outside her own show such honor to a Dracari, especially not to an old, broken veteran that even many of her own people had forgotten. Her name was Kira. Sergeant Roger was her grandfather, and she had just witnessed something that she did not quite understand yet. She began walking toward them. Above their heads, the station lights flickered once, then twice. Then the emergency alarms began to scream. Attention, all travelers. The announcement system crackled to life. We are experiencing critical system failures. All shuttle departures are suspended indefinitely. Please remain calm and stay in your designated areas. Danny looked up at the flashing red lights. He looked at the old dragon in the seat beside him. He looked at the young female Drackery, now pushing through the crowd toward them. Something told him that his simple trip home had just become much more complicated. He had no idea how right he was. Kira had not cried since she was a hatchling. Drackery did not show emotion to outsiders. It was considered weakness. Her people were warriors, proud and strong, and they kept their feelings locked behind scales of iron will. But standing in front of her grandfather for the first time in 2 years, she felt something dangerous building behind her eyes. "Grandfather," she said, her voice steady despite the storm inside her chest. "I finally found you." Roger looked up at her with an expression she had never seen on his face before. Shame. Deep, terrible shame that made him look away from her gaze. "You should not have come, child," he said quietly. "I left for a reason." "You left because you are a stubborn old fool," Kira replied. The words came out sharper than she intended. "Your family has been searching for you for months. We thought you were dead." Danny Reeves stood awkwardly nearby, unsure if he should give them privacy. The emergency alarms had stopped screaming, but red warning lights still flashed throughout the station. Around them, hundreds of travelers talked nervously about the system failures and the delayed shuttles. Nobody paid attention to the small family reunion happening in the corner. "I am a burden," Roger said. The words seemed to cause him physical pain. "My wing is gone. My leg barely works. I cannot fly. I cannot fight. I cannot provide for my family. What use is an old dragon who can do nothing but take up space?" Kira knelt down beside his seat. "You are my grandfather. That is your use. That is all the use you ever needed to have." Danny felt like he was intruding on something private, but he could not bring himself to walk away. He understood this conversation better than either of them knew. His own grandfather had spoken similar words before he passed. The feeling of being useless. The belief that love required earning. "Excuse me," Danny said carefully. "I do not mean to interrupt, but I think your grandfather might need to hear something." Both Drackery turned to look at him. Kira's eyes narrowed with suspicion. She had seen his kindness earlier, but she still did not fully trust him. Humans were strange creatures. Their motivations were hard to read. "Speak," she said. Danny took a breath. "My grandfather was a soldier. He came home from war missing a leg and carrying wounds nobody could see. He spent years believing he was worthless because he could not do the things he used to do." He paused, remembering the old man's face, the sadness that never quite left his eyes. He died thinking nobody cared about his sacrifice. He died thinking his family saw him as a burden. But he was wrong. We loved him. We needed him. Not because of what he could do, but because of who he was. Danny looked directly at Roger. "I am just a stranger, sir. But I can tell you that running away does not protect your family from pain. It just makes them hurt in a different way." Silence hung between them. Roger stared at the human for a long moment. His clawed hands gripped the armrests of his seat. His jaw tightened with emotions he had spent decades learning to suppress. "You speak boldly for one so young," the old dragon finally said. "I speak honestly," Danny replied. "That is all." Kira rose to her feet. She looked at Danny with new eyes. The suspicion was still there, but something else had joined it. Curiosity. Perhaps even the beginning of respect. "You are strange, human," she said. "Most species avoid my people. They fear us or hate us. But you gave up your seat for my grandfather. You speak to us like equals." "What?" Danny considered the question. "Because you are equals. The wars ended before I was born. I have no reason to fear you or hate you. I only see an old soldier who deserved better and a granddaughter who loves him. That is enough for me." Before anyone could respond, the station shuddered beneath their feet. The lights flickered violently. A new announcement blared through the speakers with barely controlled panic in the voice. "Attention, all travelers. We have identified critical damage to the main power coupling. If repairs are not completed within 6 hours, life support systems will fail. Station engineers are working to resolve the situation. Please remain calm." Calm was not what the crowd felt. Panic spread like fire. Beings of all species began shouting, pushing, demanding answers that nobody had. Danny listened to the announcement again in his head. "Power coupling. Critical damage. 6 hours to he new power couplings. He had spent the last 15 years of his life fixing them on ships and stations across the frontier. It was dangerous work, especially near reactor cores where temperatures could melt unprotected flesh. But it was work he knew how to do. He looked at Roger. He looked at Kira. He looked at the frightened crowd around him. I can help, he said quietly. I am a mechanic. This is what I do. Kira's eyes widened. The reactor section will be extremely hot. Dangerous for humans. I know. You could die. Danny picked up his bag. Then I better not make any mistakes. He started walking toward the maintenance section. Behind him, he heard Kira's footsteps following. What are you doing? He asked without turning around. Dracari are heat-resistant, she said. If you are going to do something foolish, someone should watch your back. Danny allowed himself a small smile. Your grandfather might not approve. My grandfather was a soldier, Kira replied. He understands duty better than anyone. Together, they disappeared into the maintenance corridors, leaving Roger behind with worry in his ancient eyes. Heat has a sound. Danny had learned this during his years working in the worst conditions the frontier could offer. When temperatures rose high enough, the air itself seemed to hum. Pipes groaned. Metal ticked and pinged as it expanded. Everything sang a song of warning that smart mechanics learned to respect. The maintenance tunnels beneath Transit Hub Gamma 7 were singing now. Danny wiped sweat from his forehead with his sleeve. His clothes were already soaked through. Every breath felt like inhaling fire. Behind him, Kira moved with easy grace, her scales protecting her from heat that would have killed most beings. How much further? She asked. Danny checked the maintenance map on his handheld device. 2 more sections. The main coupling should be just past the reactor access point. You are suffering, Kira observed. It was not a question. I have worked in worse, Danny lied. They continued forward. Red emergency lights painted everything in shades of blood. Steam hissed from damaged pipes. The station groaned around them like a wounded animal. Danny's mind kept working even as his body struggled. Power coupling failure. 6 hours until life support died. Hundreds of travelers above them, panicking and helpless. An old dragon veteran who deserved better than dying on a forgotten station. None of them had asked to be here. None of them deserved what was coming. If he failed, he would not fail. They reached the reactor access point 20 minutes later. Danny stopped cold when he saw the damage. This is not system failure, he said quietly. Kira moved beside him. What do you mean? Danny pointed at the ruined power coupling. Clean cuts. Precise angles. Wires severed in exactly the right places to cause maximum damage while appearing like natural decay. Someone did this on purpose, he said. This is sabotage. Kira's expression hardened. Her claws extended slightly, an instinctive response to threat. Who would destroy a civilian station? There are children above us. Families. Someone with a grudge, Danny replied. He was already pulling tools from his bag, assessing the damage. Someone who cares more about revenge than innocent lives. The repair would be difficult, but not impossible. Whoever had done this knew enough to cause serious damage, but not enough to make it unfixable. A professional would have done worse. This felt personal. Emotional. Danny got to work. His hands moved automatically, guided by years of experience. Reconnect the primary feeds. Bypass the damaged regulators. Reroute power through secondary channels. The heat was brutal. His vision blurred. His fingers burned even through his work gloves. But he kept going. Kira watched him with growing amazement. She had never seen a human work like this. His body was clearly failing, pushed far beyond safe limits. But his focus never wavered. He moved like the machines he repaired, precise and tireless. Why are you doing this? She asked suddenly. Danny did not stop working. Because someone has to. That is not an answer. You do not know these people. You owe them nothing. You could have stayed safe above and let the station engineers handle this. Danny paused just long enough to look at her. His face was red and slick with sweat. His eyes were bloodshot from the heat. But his voice was steady. Because it is the right thing to do, he said simply. That is always enough reason. Kira fell silent. She thought about her people. Dracari warriors fought for honor, for glory, for victory. They did not sacrifice themselves for strangers without expecting something in return. The concept was almost foreign to her. Yet here was this fragile human, cooking alive in a maintenance tunnel, saving people he would never meet. Not for reward, not for recognition, just because it was right. You are very strange, she said finally. So I have been told. Danny finished the primary repairs. Power readings stabilized. The immediate crisis was passing. But something on his scanner caught his attention. A secondary failure point, deeper in the tunnel, hidden from initial scans. There is more damage ahead, he said. If I do not fix it, everything I just did will be worthless in a few hours. Then we keep going. They moved deeper into the tunnel. The heat grew worse. Danny's steps became unsteady. Kira found herself walking closer to him, ready to catch him if he fell. They rounded a corner and stopped. A figure stood in the shadows ahead. Reptilian scales, cold eyes, a weapon in his hands, aimed directly at them. I knew someone would come eventually, the figure said. His voice was bitter and hollow. I did not expect a human and a Dracary working together. How disgusting. Danny raised his hand slowly. We do not want trouble. We are just here to fix the station. The station does not need fixing, the figure replied. The station needs to burn, along with every Dracary inside it. Kira stepped forward, placing herself between Danny and the weapon. You are Selvian. Your people and mine have not been at war for 30 years. 30 years, the saboteur spat. Is that supposed to make me forget? Your kind burned my world, killed my family, left me with nothing but hatred. The weapon shook in his hands. Danny could see it now. This was not a soldier. This was not a professional. This was a broken soul, drowning in pain, trying to make others feel what he felt. Danny stepped around Kira despite her hiss of warning. What is your name? He asked the Selvian quietly. The question seemed to confuse him. What? Your name. If you are going to kill us, I want to know who is pulling the trigger. The Selvian stared at him. For a long moment, nobody moved. Torek, he finally said. My name is Torek. Torek, Danny repeated. I am sorry for what happened to your family. I truly am. But killing us will not bring them back. The weapon trembled. And somewhere in Torek's eyes, something that had been dead for a very long time began to stir. Pain was a familiar friend to Torek. He had lived with it for 30 years. It slept beside him at night. It whispered in his ear during the day. It had become so much a part of him that he could not remember what life felt like without it. The rage was easier. The rage gave him purpose. The rage told him what to do when the pain became too much to bear. And now a human was ruining everything. Step aside, Torek growled, keeping his weapon trained on them. I have no quarrel with your kind. Only with the dragons. Danny did not move. I will not let you hurt her. Why do you care? The Dracary are monsters. They burn worlds. They kill without mercy. They deserve everything I am giving them. Kira's claws were fully extended now. Her muscles tensed, ready to fight. But Danny held up his hand, signaling her to wait. I am not going to tell you that the Dracary are innocent, Danny said carefully. I do not know enough about the war to judge. But I know that Kira here has never hurt anyone. I know that her grandfather, sitting up in that station, lost his wings saving refugees during the Void Siege. I know that killing them will not undo what was done to your family. Torek's grip on his weapon tightened. You know nothing. I know hate, Danny replied. I have seen what it does to people. It eats them from the inside. It makes them destroy the things they should be building. It turns them into the very monsters they claim to be fighting against. Shut up. Your family would not want this. Whatever happened to them, wherever they are now, they would not want you to become a murderer. I said shut up. The weapon shook violently. Torek's scales had gone pale. His breathing came in ragged gasps. Danny could see the war happening behind his eyes. Decades of pain fighting against something it had nearly destroyed. Hope. The desperate, dying ember of hope that maybe there was another way. A new voice broke the silence. The human speaks truth. Everyone turned. Roger stood at the tunnel entrance, leaning heavily against the wall. His damaged leg trembled with effort. His single wing hung limp at his side, but his eyes were clear and strong. Grandfather, Kira gasped. You should not be here. Your leg cannot handle this. My leg will survive, Roger replied. He limped forward slowly, step by painful step, until he stood between Danny and Torek. I am an old soldier, Selvian. I know what your people lost during the war. I know the villages we burned, the lives we took. I carry that weight with me every day. Torek stared at him. You admit it. I do not make excuses, Roger said. War makes monsters of everyone. My people did terrible things. Your people did terrible things. We were all victims of leaders who cared more about victory than lives. He paused. I lost my wings saving a transport ship. Do you know what species were on that ship? Selvians. 37 Selvian refugees who would have died if I had not acted. I did not save them because they were my allies. I saved them because they were people. The weapon lowered slightly. Torek's face twisted with confusion and pain. I have been alone for 30 years, he said, his voice cracking. My family is gone. My world is gone. All I had left was my hate. Hate is a heavy thing to carry, Roger replied. It breaks you slowly, piece by piece, until there is nothing left. I have seen it happen to better men than either of us. What else is there? Torek asked. He sounded like a lost child. If I let go of the hate, what do I have? Danny spoke up. The chance to build something new. The chance to be more than your pain. Torek looked at the human, then at the old dragon, then at Kira, standing ready to fight but not attacking. He looked at the weapon in his hands, the tool of his revenge, the only purpose he had known for 3 decades. His arms dropped to his sides. The weapon clattered to the floor. I do not know how to stop hurting, Torek whispered. Roger placed a clawed hand on the Selvian's shoulder. The gesture was gentle, almost fatherly. None of us do. But we do not have to hurt alone. Danny bent down and picked up the fallen weapon, setting it safely aside. There is still damage to repair. The station is not safe yet. If you want to help instead of destroy, we could use an extra pair of hands. Torek stared at him like he had spoken a foreign language. You would trust me? After what I tried to do, I would give you a chance to choose something different, Danny replied. That is all any of us can do. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Torek nodded slowly. The motion was small, uncertain, like a baby taking its first steps. But it was real. Show me what needs to be fixed, he said. Danny allowed himself a small smile. Follow me. They continued deeper into the tunnel together. The human mechanic, the young dragon warrior, the old veteran, and the broken soul who was learning, for the first time in decades, that there might be something worth living for beyond revenge. The station shuddered around them. Time was running out. But somehow, despite everything, Danny felt something close to hope. Metal screamed like a living thing. The secondary coupling was worse than Danny had feared. Torek's sabotage had triggered a chain reaction that was slowly tearing the station apart from the inside. Every few minutes, the walls shook. Pipes burst. Sections of ceiling collapsed into burning debris. They had maybe 20 minutes before the entire maintenance level became a death trap. Danny worked faster than he had ever worked in his life. His hands flew across damaged systems, bypassing failures, rerouting power, holding the station together through sheer skill and stubborn will. Sweat poured down his face. His lungs burned with every breath. But he did not stop. That should do it. He gasped, sealing the final connection. The secondary coupling is stable. Life support should hold. The station groaned in response, as if disagreeing with his optimism. We need to leave, Kira said. Now? The structural supports are failing. She was right. Danny could see cracks spreading across the tunnel walls. The heat was becoming unbearable even for him. They had pushed their luck as far as it could go. Move, he shouted. The group ran. Roger moved as fast as his damaged leg would allow. Torek stayed close to the old dragon, ready to help if needed. Kira took the lead, her sharp eyes scanning for the safest path through the crumbling corridor. Behind them, sections of tunnel collapsed with thunderous crashes. Fire bloomed from ruptured pipes. The station was dying around them, and it seemed determined to take them with it. They were 50 meters from the exit when Torek felt that a piece of falling debris struck his leg, sending him crashing to the floor. He tried to rise but could not. His scales had cracked. Dark blood leaked from the wound. Danny skidded to a stop. He turned back without hesitation. What are you doing? Kira shouted. Leave him. We do not have time. Danny ignored her. He grabbed Torek's arm and pulled it over his shoulder, lifting the Selvian to his feet. Torek was heavier than he looked. Danny's muscles screamed in protest. What? Torek gasped through the pain. After everything I did, why would you help me? Because you are worth saving, Danny grunted. Everyone is worth saving. Now shut up and move your legs. They stumbled forward together. The tunnel shook violently. Ceiling panels crashed down around them. A wall of fire erupted behind them, chasing them toward the exit like a hungry predator. Kira fell back to help support Torek from the other side. Roger pushed forward despite his own agony, clearing debris from their path with his powerful arm. The exit bulkhead appeared ahead. Safety was just 30 meters away. The door was jammed. No, Kira breathed. No, no, no. The bulkhead had been bent by structural stress. The metal frame was twisted, the door stuck half-closed. There was not enough space for anyone to squeeze through. Fire roared behind them. They had seconds. Roger stepped forward. His scales glowed in the reflected light of the flames. His single remaining wing spread wide, tattered and scarred, but still magnificent. "Grandfather, do not," Kira pleaded. "Your body cannot take this." "My body has taken worse," Roger replied. He gripped the edge of the jammed door with both clawed hands. His muscles tensed. His damaged legs shook with effort. And then, with a roar that shook the walls, he pulled. Metal groaned. The door frame twisted further. Roger's scales cracked under the strain. Blood seeped from old wounds reopening under new pressure. But he did not stop. He pulled with every ounce of strength his ancient body possessed. The door moved. Inch by inch, it scraped open. The gap widened. Just enough. Just barely enough. "Go," Roger bellowed. Kira pushed Torek through first, then Danny. She hesitated at the threshold, reaching back for her grandfather. "Come on," she screamed. Roger released the door and lunged through the gap, just as the tunnel behind them collapsed completely. Fire roared past the sealed bulkhead, but they were safe. They had made it. For a long moment, no one moved. They lay on the floor of the main station corridor, gasping for breath, covered in soot and blood and burns. Around them, station security forces were rushing toward the maintenance section. Medical teams pushed through the crowd. Danny rolled onto his back and stared at the ceiling. His entire body felt broken. He was fairly certain he had second-degree burns on both arms. His lungs felt like they had been scraped with sandpaper, but he was alive. They were all alive. Security officers surrounded Torek. They recognized the saboteur from surveillance footage. Weapons were drawn. Restraints were produced. "Wait," Danny croaked. He forced himself to sit up. "Wait. He helped us. He helped fix the damage he caused." An officer looked at him doubtfully. "He nearly killed everyone on this station. And then he chose differently." Danny met the officer's eyes. "He needs help. Rehabilitation. Not punishment. The war broke him 30 years ago, and nobody bothered to put him back together. That is a failure we all share." The officers exchanged uncertain glances. This was not standard procedure. But the human who had just saved the station was hard to argue with. "We will take it under advisement," the lead officer said finally. They led Torek away. But before he disappeared into the crowd, the Selvian looked back at Danny one last time. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for seeing something in me worth saving." Danny nodded. He did not have the strength for words. Kira knelt beside her grandfather, checking his wounds. Roger was breathing heavily, but his eyes were clear. He looked at Danny with something new in his ancient gaze. Respect. Deep, genuine respect. "You carry burdens that are not yours to bear," Kira said softly to Danny. "Why?" Danny managed a weak smile. "Maybe that is what makes us human. News travels faster than light when it wants to." Within hours, the footage had spread across 100 worlds. A simple video, captured by a bystander in the crowded transit station. A tired human mechanic offering his seat to a forgotten dragon veteran. The image was not dramatic. There were no explosions, no battles, no heroic speeches. Just a small act of decency in a galaxy that had forgotten what decency looked like, and somehow, that made it powerful beyond measure. Danny learned about his sudden fame when a station official found him in the medical bay, where doctors were treating his burns and smoke damage. The official was nervous, speaking too fast, explaining that important people wanted to meet him. "What important people?" Danny asked tiredly. The official swallowed. "The Drackery High Commander. She arrived an hour ago with a full delegation. They are asking for you by name." Danny stared at him. This had to be a joke. The Drackery High Commander was one of the most powerful figures in the known galaxy. She did not travel to remote transit stations to meet human mechanics. But the official was not joking. An hour later, Danny found himself standing in the station's command center, still wearing his burned work clothes, facing a dragon who radiated authority like heat from a star. The High Commander was massive, her scales a deep crimson that seemed to absorb light. Her eyes held centuries of wisdom and war. Beside Danny stood Kira and Roger. The old veteran seemed smaller somehow, humbled by the presence of his supreme commander. Danny Reeves, the High Commander said. Her voice filled the room without effort. I have watched the footage many times. I have read the reports of what you did in the maintenance tunnels. I have spoken with witnesses. Danny shifted uncomfortably. I just did what needed to be done, ma'am. Anyone would have done the same. No, she replied firmly. That is precisely the point. Anyone would not have done the same. Others saw an old veteran suffering and chose to ignore him. Others would have fled when the station failed. Others would have left the saboteur to die. You did none of these things. She turned to Roger. The old dragon straightened as much as his damaged body allowed. Sergeant Roger, she said, I have reviewed your service record. You saved 37 lives during the Void Siege, including civilians from species who were our enemies. You lost your wing in that action, and then you were forgotten. Roger said nothing. His eyes glistened. That ends today, the High Commander continued. By my authority as Supreme Commander of all Dracari forces, you are hereby granted the full honors and recognition you should have received 30 years ago. Your pension will be restored. Your medical care will be provided. Your name will be added to the roll of heroes, where it belongs. Roger swayed slightly. Kira grabbed his arm to steady him. For the first time in decades, tears streamed freely down the old dragon's scarred face. I do not deserve this, he whispered. You deserved it 30 years ago, the High Commander replied. A human had to remind us of that. The shame belongs to us, not to you. She turned back to Danny. There is one more matter to address. You have done my people a great service, human. You have reminded us that honor is not found in battle alone. It is found in small acts of compassion, in choosing to see others as worthy of respect, in carrying burdens that are not your own. Danny opened his mouth to deflect the praise, but she raised a clawed hand to silence him. I am told that Sergeant Roger wishes to bestow upon you our highest honor. I have approved his request. Roger stepped forward. His movements were slow and careful, but his voice was strong. Danny Reeves, he said formally. In the old tongue, we have a word for those who stand beside us in our darkest moments. Those who carry us when we cannot carry ourselves. Those who treat our pain as their own. He placed his clawed hand on Danny's shoulder. I name you Wing Brother. From this day forward, you are family to me and to my blood. No Dracari will raise claw against you. Our homes are your home. Our strength is your strength. The command center fell absolutely silent that Wing Brother was not a title given lightly. In all of Dracari history, fewer than a dozen non-dragons had ever received it. Danny was now bound to one of the most powerful warrior races in the galaxy, not through politics or treaties, but through something far more powerful, through kindness. I do not know what to say, Danny admitted quietly. Roger smiled. You do not need to say anything. You showed us who you are through your actions. Words are unnecessary. Later that day, Danny stood in the main station concourse. The crowd had changed. The fear and panic were gone, replaced by something unexpected. Everywhere he looked, beings of various species were offering seats to others. Veterans were being approached with respect and gratitude. Strangers were helping strangers. The ripples of one small act had spread further than Danny could have imagined. Kira found him watching the crowd with a strange expression. You look confused, she said. I did not expect any of this, he admitted. I just gave up my seat. That is all. Kira shook her head. You showed the galaxy that kindness still exists. You cannot underestimate how rare that is. How valuable. 3 weeks later, Danny was on a new job at a remote colony. He entered a crowded cantina after a long day of work. Every seat was taken. Near the back, an elderly alien of a species he had never seen before was struggling to stand, clearly exhausted. Nobody was paying attention. Danny walked over without thinking. Excuse me. Please take my seat. The old alien stared at him in surprise. You are offering your seat? To me? Yes, sir. Danny smiled. You look like you need it more than I do. He helped the alien sit down, then leaned against a nearby wall, content to stand. A young worker at the next table watched the exchange with wide eyes. Why did you do that? The worker asked. You do not even know him. Danny thought about Roger, about Kira, about Torek and the flames and the door that would not open, about all the people who had been changed by a single small choice. Because it is the right thing to do, he said simply. And sometimes that is enough to change everything. The worker stared at him for a long moment. Then, slowly, she stood up and offered her own seat to another tired traveler nearby. Somewhere across the stars, the ripples continued.